Conjunctions are connecting words. There are three types of conjunctions. The most common type of conjunction is the coordinating conjunction. So remember, the thing about coordinating conjunctions is that they join parts of a sentence that have the same weight, or you could say are equally important to the content of the sentence. So there are a total of 7 coordinating conjunctions, and you can remember this, the 7 coordinating conjunctions by the old expression fanboys: for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. Now, some of these coordinating conjunctions we use more or less, and, but, or, so. Those are really common. For and nor, those are becoming a little bit more archaic within the English language, but they're still certainly useful, and you can still use them, and they make for great coordinating conjunctions. You know, sometimes you want to mix it up, sometimes you want to add just a little bit of extra nuance to what you're writing. But the ones that you're really going to see the most are and, but, or, and so. Okay, so let's look at a few of these in context. We often see or and in lists. So here's an example. Her favorite flavors of ice cream are licorice, pistachio, and moose tracks. Okay, so these are actually my favorite flavors of ice cream. But anyway, within this list, there is nothing to say that she likes licorice more than pistachio, or maybe she likes moose tracks more than licorice. We don't know. Within this list, within this sentence, each of these elements has the same amount of weight, the same amount of importance. Okay, let's look at another one. Please shut the door or the cat will get out. Here's a really good example of using one of the coordinating conjunctions to connect two complete sentences. A complete sentence is also called an independent clause, but we'll get to that later. So let's just think about these as complete sentences. So we are able to connect two complete sentences with a coordinating conjunction. The first one just happens to be a command, but these are two complete sentences. We could communicate each of these sentences as a sentence, couldn't we? We could write, please shut the door, period. The cat will get out, period. That's another way of expressing this same content, but we're not. Now, why not? Well, or adds just a little bit of additional meaning. It kind of puts in a little bit of cause and effect. You have to shut the door or the cat's going to get out. It also helps to connect. If we make everything a single sentence, it can make our writing quite choppy and sometimes disjointed. So these connecting words can add nuance to the meaning. They can also help to add flow to your writing. So let's look at one more example here. I would like to get a cat, comma, but my landlord won't allow it. So again, very similar to the last example, we have actually two separate sentences here, or we could have two separate sentences. I would like to get a cat, period. My landlord won't allow it, period. That works grammatically too. So what does the but do? Well, the but actually connects the two sentences together, so it adds flow to the writing, and again, it adds just a little bit of nuance there. So we're showing a relationship between two sentences. I just want to point out to you, When a coordinating conjunction connects two separate sentences, we always put a comma before it. Now, that doesn't mean that you will always put a comma before a coordinating conjunction. Now, I don't want to get too much into this because it gets a little bit more complicated. Just know that when you do have two separate sentences and you connect them with a coordinating conjunction, you will put a comma before it. And we'll talk about the exceptions, or not really the exceptions, but how that might look different in another situation, in a different grammatical situation. So when we have a list, it's a little bit different. It depends on which style guide you're following. Generally, the Canadian Press style book, it suggests not using that comma before the and like I did in the list. It says to use it only if there is confusion without it. And that's certainly possible in some situations. So it goes for the Canadian Press style book suggests a more sparse way to use punctuation. But having a comma before the and in a list is perfectly acceptable in most writing. So it's a lot to do with which style guide you're using or personal preference. Let's look at subordinating conjunctions. This would be the second most common type of conjunction. Subordinating conjunctions introduce subordinate or dependent elements and join them to the main part of the sentence. So, subordinate, what does that mean? Subordinate in the grammatical sense means less important. So, when you use a subordinating conjunction, you are telling the reader that that portion of the sentence that the subordinating conjunction introduces is less important or somehow subordinate or somehow dependent on the other part of the sentence. So let's look at a few examples here. There are many subordinating conjunctions, but a few examples are after, because, before, since, whenever, while, whenever. The cat left the mouse on the bed because she wanted to share her catch. So here we have two clauses, two things that look a lot like a sentence, but one is not a sentence. The cat left the mouse on the bed. So that becomes the most important part of this sentence. And you can tell right there that that on its own would be a sentence. The cat left the mouse on the bed, period, right? But we have this additional information because she wanted to share her catch. So now we have a reason for why the cat left the mouse on the bed. Because she wanted to share her catch, that is not a sentence on its own. We couldn't write because she wanted to share her catch, period. When you start a clause with one of these subordinating conjunctions, that clause cannot be a separate sentence. It has to be attached to something else, like the cat left the mouse on the bed. So the cat left the mouse on the bed because she wanted to share her catch. Now, another thing you might notice here, if you're really observant, is that there's no comma before the because. There just isn't. Don't ask me why, it's just the way it is. Actually, I know why, but we won't get into that. Maybe it looks like there should be. I kind of think this is one of those things that trips people up. So just avoid using a comma before because in this kind of a situation. All right, let's look at a variation of this pattern. So here we have the exact same information. Crazy, isn't it? Because she wanted to share her catch, comma, the cat left the mouse on the bed. So now we're starting with the subordinate or dependent or less important part of the sentence, we assume, and we're ending with the main part. of the sentence. And it's interesting to see how that kind of shifts the meaning a tiny little bit, doesn't it? It just puts the emphasis in a different place in the sentence. Now, when we start a sentence with a subordinating conjunction and a subordinating clause as it's known, because she wanted to share the catch, comma, we do add a comma. And this is really to show where the main part of the sentence starts, because the main part of the sentence is the cat left the mouse on the bed. And finally, we have correlative conjunctions. You might never have heard of these because they're a bit less common. I'm going to throw them out there so that if you see them, you know what they are. However, I'll tell you right now, I won't put these on exams. So I will put I will put subordinating conjunctions, and I will put coordinating conjunctions on tests and quizzes. I won't put correlative conjunctions. So this is just an FYI, so you get the full meal deal in this lecture. Okay, so correlative conjunctions are used in pairs. So they include expressions like either or, neither nor, not only, and but also. So that again, they have a way of showing relationships. They are connecting ideas together. So in that way, they are very similar to coordinating and subordinating conjunctions. So either I will go shopping or I will go home and take a nap. And you can see in this example how I could, you know, you can see the full sentences in there. Now, you couldn't say either I will go shopping, period. No, you couldn't say that. But you can see that there is a sentence embedded in there, and then there's another sentence embedded in the second part as well. So this correlative conjunction pulls those ideas together and shows relationship between them.